Hello everyone, and welcome to Living Coast in your living room. My name is Ashley. I am one of the educators here at the Living Coast Discovery Center. Now, the Living Coast Discovery Center is a small nonprofit zoo and aquarium located down in Chula Vista at the San Diego Bay National Wildlife Refuge. During this time, we are doing our best to bring to you all kinds of different videos about nature and how you can learn as well as better protect the environment. Now, right now, our video is being posted on Facebook, but starting next week, we are only going to be premiering our videos on YouTube. So be sure to check out our YouTube playlist to follow all of our videos. So this week, we will still be filming and posting our live videos to Facebook, but starting next week, we will be sharing them solely to our YouTube playlist. So be sure to keep up with us and check in with us every day, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to learn all about nature and all the different animals and plants that call San Diego home. Now today, we are going to be learning about a little bit different. Normally, we focus a little bit more on animals and that kind of aspect of nature, but today we're going to take a little bit different route. We're going to learn about geology. Do you know what geology is? Geology is the study of rocks, weathering, and erosion. And it's very important. Geology takes a really long time to occur, so it's not just something that happens overnight. Geological processes do take a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. But today, we're actually going to be focusing in on the rock cycle, and we're going to take this thousands and thousands of year process and turn it into a few-minute video. So we're going to get a chance to learn about the rock cycle today and the three main types of rocks. Do you know anything about rocks already in the rock cycle? Do you know what the three main types of rocks are? It's okay if you don't, because rocks are not for everybody, but today we're going to get a chance to learn about rocks in a little bit more fun way. We're going to get a chance to make an edible model today. An edible model is going to be something that you can eat because it's edible. So we're going to be using Starburst today, but you can use any type of soft candy. So like taffy, Tootsie Rolls, anything like that. Any of the soft kind of squishier candies. That's what you can use for this. So be sure to follow along as we go through this rock cycle so that you can have a chance to learn about rocks as well as get a nice little tasty treat. So I did say we were doing an edible model. Edible means that you can eat it, and a model is something that is going to simulate something else. So it's going to be similar to what actually happens, but this is going to be a much faster process. So as we talked about with the rock cycle, it does take thousands and thousands and thousands of years, but today we're going to do this in a very short time frame. Now, one of the main types of rocks that we're going to be learning about is going to be called the sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rocks are going to be rocks that are made from sediments. So it actually is going to take up for 4 different steps to make a sedimentary rock. First, sedimentary rocks have to be found from sediments, so there needs to be sediments. So weathering is actually what breaks down different rocks and breaks it into smaller and smaller pieces. So this weathering breaks it down, and then erosion is going to be the next step. And erosion is going to be the movement. So once those pieces are broken down, they'll stay in one place for a little bit, right? But eventually it's going to have wind or it's going to rain, and those pieces of rock are going to move. So erosion, they're going to move. Now, in order for this to become a rock, after these tiny little pieces have been broken down and moved around, they need to be able to be compacted or brought back together. And then they need to be lithified, or lithification needs to occur. And that's going to be the actual sticking process of them. So we're going to be simulating that today. We're going to be making this with all kinds of different rocks. So if you have all your supplies that we listed out, you're going to need a few things. First, you're going to want a pair of gloves, like this one here. Of course, if you don't have gloves like these, that's totally fine, since you're hopefully not going to be sharing this with anybody, so you can wash your hands and then make your own rocks yourself. So I just washed my hands, but I'm also going to wear these gloves because I want to make sure my hands stay as clean as possible. You're going to need a butter knife, just like this one. So I'm just using a plastic butter knife. You can use one from your kitchen. It doesn't need to be plastic. This is just what I'm using here. And then I'm going to need some Starburst. So what you're going to need to be able to make your own sedimentary Starburst into a rock, you're going to take a couple of them. I'm going to put them onto a piece of wax paper. You can use wax paper or a paper plate or just a regular plate. Doesn't really matter. It's just to hold your rock. So step 1 is going to be to take your Starburst rocks and you're going to unwrap them. And you're going to start to break them up. So you're going to go through that weathering process. You're going to break these rocks up into small pieces using your butter knife. You're going to cut them up. Hopefully that doesn't blow away. I recommend using 3 different colors so that you can see a little bit more in detail how this rock process works. Opening Starburst with gloves on is not the easiest. All right. And let's do an orange. So I'm using a red one, a pink one, and an orange one. What I'm going to do next, now that I have these open, I'm going to cut them up into small pieces. So I'm going to use my butter knife and cut into smaller pieces. Now my Starbursts are a little on the cold side, so this can be a little hard, a little difficult. It's okay if they're not super big pieces. It's okay if they're really small pieces. You just want to break them up into a couple different smaller pieces. All right, so I broke up my orange one. Gonna break up my red one. All right. Now I'm going to break up my pink one. So you can see this is the process of weathering, so that breaking down. And as I'm doing it, I'm also going through that process of erosion all at the same time. So I'm actually moving them as I've been breaking them down. So that's 2 steps. The third step is going to be that compaction. So now we have our pieces broken up. Going to move them around a little bit. Mix them up, and then I'm going to separate them into 2 different piles, just right in half. They're a little sticky. That's why I wanted the gloves. All right, so now they're there, but are these rocks? Just because these pieces are together, does that make it a rock? No. So the next things I need to do is I'm going to compact them. So I'm just going to smush them together. Compact and compact, a little together. So they're not super big. They're not super small, and they're not going to be super packed together, right? So they kind of look like a rock, but not quite there yet. So we only have 3 steps gone through so far. Our next step is going to be the lithification. So that's going to be the pressure pushing it together. So I'm going to smush these together. Make sure that they are stuck together. Smush, 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 nice and tight. All right, so now I have 2 rocks. Does that look closer to a rock to you? Looks more like a rock to me as well. All right, so that is going to be our sedimentary rock. So we have cut it up. So we've gone through that weathering. We broke it down. We moved the pieces. That's erosion. We brought them together. That's the compaction. And then we smushed them with pressure, that lithification. So they got compacted and lithified by bringing together. So that's how sedimentary rocks are made. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 2 off to the side over there. And I'm going to get out another piece of wax paper because we're going to move into another type of rock. The next type of rock is called metamorphic rock. Do you know what that word means, metamorphic? Does it sound familiar to you, like maybe another word that you've heard before? Well, metamorphosis is to change. So a metamorphic rock is one that has changed. So metamorphic rocks are going to be rocks that have moved from one form into another. So how we have this one here, we have our igneous rock. I'm just going to pick it up, and I'm actually going to use heat and pressure. So I'm just going to rub my hands together, just like this, heat and pressure. And you can see this rock is changing here. So heat and pressure, just smashing on it a little bit, giving it some pressure, and look at that. Is that what that rock looked like when we started? Now, this is why I wanted these gloves, is because Starbursts do get a little sticky. And they're sticking to my gloves. But now you can see we had the different pieces. You can see them all getting smushed together now, right? So that's metamorphic rock. It means to change. So it's formed from heat and pressure being compressed down onto it, and that's what's going to change that rock. So now I have my sedimentary rock and my metamorphic rock right here. Now we talked about there being 3 different types of rocks, so now we're going to move into our igneous rocks. So igneous rocks are a little bit different. So what I need to do is I'm actually going to use a hot pot. So I need to turn my hot pot on over here on this side, get it started to warm up. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut up a couple of different starbursts again, because I want to keep these demonstration rocks here that we've already made. So I'm going to open up some of these starbursts over here. Now, if you made your rocks with me at the same time, you might have enough to make more than just 2 rocks, depending on how many pieces of starburst you cut up. And you can actually split it into, so when we started with that sedimentary rock, you could have started with it in more pieces. So you could have made multiple pieces of rock. All right. Throw in my starburst here. It's getting a little stuck to me. That's all right. Use a little yellow this time. So what I'm doing is I'm opening up these starbursts and I'm re-breaking them down, because I should have done this earlier, so that way I had a little bit extra ready to go for you guys, but here we are. I'm just going to break this down into some smaller pieces just to make it a little easier for it to melt. So igneous rocks are actually born of fire. That is what igneous rock means. So what that means is that it comes from lava or magma. Now, lava is what it's called from a volcano when it has come above the surface of the Earth's crust. So when we see it spewing out of a volcano, that is what we call lava. Magma is actually what's underneath the Earth's crust. And from that Earth's crust, magma can move around. And if it becomes cooled, then it can turn into a rock. It's the same with lava. So when lava comes out of a volcano, eventually it cools down, right? And this is what actually leaves behind these rocks. So with igneous, we are actually going to be making our own igneous rocks by melting some of these starbursts here. I'm going to melt them in this pot over here, and then I'm going to cool them down. So another thing that you need is hopefully you're with an adult so they can help you use the stovetop, and then you need a bowl of ice. So we're going to melt some starburst in this pot first to turn it into lava or magma. If you want to pretend that we're under the volcano, that's totally fine. Or we can pretend like we're on top on the Earth's crust like we currently are. So we're going to melt it down, get it nice and liquefied, and then we will rapidly cool it with our ice. Now, in reality, this would not happen this quickly, right? So we are doing this in a much faster time frame than what it would actually occur in, because we have different things to help us, like this pot, right? Well, with igneous rocks, they can actually cool at 2 different rates, and that makes 2 different types of igneous rocks. The first one is called an intrusive igneous rock, and that means that the rock or the lava came out of the volcano, or more so magma is more appropriate. The magma seeped through a different area and then slowly cooled down. So I'm just going to be stirring this starburst over here to make sure I'm not burning it. I don't want anything to burn over here, so I'm just giving it a nice little stir. It smells very fruity. So with those intrusive rocks, it means that the magma moved and then it cooled down very slowly. And this creates a different type of igneous rock called intrusive. An example of this is going to be granite. Another example is going to be what we're actually making today. We're going to be making an extrusive igneous rock. So what that means is that we are going to rapidly cool our rock, our magma. So what happens, I'm going to get you guys up close so you can see this. What happens is that the sedimentary rocks have broken down. We've got our heat here, making that lava. And then what I'm going to do is throw it into this pool of ice. Now, in nature, it wouldn't be ice that this is coming into. It would be seawater. And this creates obsidian. So let's see what happens as this nice gooiness falls on this ice here. Now, I didn't make a lot because I only used a few Starbursts. So if you want to have a more profound effect here, you can use more Starburst, and that's going to get you a very large chunk. All right. So now I've got my rapidly cooling extrusive igneous rock. I'm going to take this, and I don't want to put this back on my hot pot. So you can see this is starting to cool. This ice is acting like our seawater would when lava comes out of a volcano and it touches into the ocean water. It rapidly cools, and then it leaves behind these chunks like that. So let's review. We have our sedimentary rock here, which is made through weathering, erosion, compaction, and lithification. You can see those different pieces that were broken down and brought back together and compacted. Then we have our metamorphic rock over here, which is our heat and pressure changing from one form to another. I keep getting stuck with my gloves. And then we have our igneous rock, which was lava or magma that has been cooled either rapidly or slowly. In our case, rapidly. So let's see if we can pick this guy up now. Probably going to have a couple ice cubes stuck to it, and that's okay. Stuck to the bowl. Oh yeah. So that's our final rock here. So now you can see our three different types of rocks right here. We have our sedimentary at the top, metamorphic on the left, and our igneous on the bottom. Now the rock cycle is interchanging, so that means that it is constantly going from one form to another. So you can see that here in this lovely image. So you can go from one step to another at any point. All pieces are interconnected. You don't need to go from sedimentary to metamorphic to igneous. You can move them around and they're always going to be connected. Now the rock cycle is constantly happening. As you can see, those green arrows are representing that weathering and erosion. And that's always breaking down different parts of nature into sediments, which can then be compacted and formed into sedimentary rocks. Or if they become moved from heat and pressure, that's going to make them into metamorphic, right? So this is our rock cycle with Starburst. I hope you had a great time learning about them and you enjoy your nice little tasty snacks. Don't forget, next week we are going to be exclusively on YouTube. Thanks for joining us here today, and we hope you've had a great time on Living Coast in your living room.